Same old Vikings. That's about what I can say for them for this go-around. Despite the pieces that may be in play to contend for the playoffs, Minnesota made news for everything off the field. Jeff Gladney saw how much of a bust Isaiah Wilson was and decided to join him in speedrunning his way out of the NFL. I hate wasted talent. Mike Zimmer has zero tolerance for those that defy his quest to win. This includes an assistant coach who was chucked into a meat grinder. But what does he do about Kirk Cousins? Buyer's remorse for Herschel Walker 2.0 grows with every passing day, and the fans are ready to have him drawn and quartered. It doesn't matter if he's encased himself in plexiglass, Minnesotans are very creative in their torture. The team has trained them well there. Perhaps Irv Smith can be encased in plexiglass, as there's a good chance he's out for the season. Things are looking rough, but hey, at least you extended Harrison Smith. The NFC is pretty tight in a lot of aspects. A logical person would just sit back and let it all develop, but I'm an impulsive bastard. I need to make shitty predictions that backfire quickly. The NFC East will surprisingly not change hands again, and it will be Washington that pulls it out. The NFC North is still Packers territory, however. The NFC South, I hate to say it, but Brady and the Buccaneers have it on lockdown. The NFC West, though? That's tough, but I'll have to say San Francisco bounces back if they're healthy. For the wildcards, I'm rolling with Seattle, New Orleans, and the Rams. Once again, many teams can be considered for these three slots. With that being said, I should shut the hell up. It's time for some fucking football. Joe Burrow has returned. I only hope that the Bengals don't leave him to die like they did last year. The fortunate thing is that the Vikings seem to be doing more than enough of that this week. Horrifically undisciplined early on. The secondary being gashed regularly. Minnesota falling behind to a team they should be beating if they have any hopes of making it to January football. I can't tell if we're underestimating the Bengals or if Minnesota is truly this bad in a lot of aspects. Kind of feels like that it's a bit of both. Imagine if Burrow had a real coach, a real play caller unlocking his abilities. He has so much more to give, yet it's as if he's hampered by a restrictor plate. It's also why Minnesota was able to come back into this game, but the thing that might stop them? A field goal. They need a 53-yarder to tie the game for OT, and their kicker hasn't had a regular gig in years. The Vikings can make clutch field goals? I feel like we've just had a breakthrough, but then you realize this is Minnesota and they ruin everything they touch. Would you be shocked to find out they lost this game? I can hear the calls from Minneapolis burning the phone line.
But he didn't fumble the football! His knee was down! The Vikings should have won this game!
You want my counter-argument? The Vikings shouldn't have even been in this position in the first place. Well done, you have a scapegoat to deflect from the real issues plaguing the team. Perhaps next time you can play less like shit instead of giving Cincinnati hope. The Bengals having hope. That's a sentence that hasn't been uttered about them in over half a decade. You get a game between Minnesota and Arizona, you're not expecting that much in terms of team defense. The offenses are the stars of the show in this game. Kyler Murray running for his life and thriving in the chaos. Kirk Cousins running from calls for his head and thriving in the chaos. Defenses left burned in their wake. It's modern NFL football for better or for worse. Two gunslinging teams dueling to the death in the heart of Arizona, each eager to see themselves move on to the next opponent with victory. Normally, the Cardinals would have the edge, but a few poor throws resulted in easy points for the Vikings. Let me put it this way, throwing a pick six makes a hard task become even harder. As the points add up deep into the fourth quarter, Arizona clings on to a 1-point lead after another field goal. Things seem dire for the Vikings, but now is the chance for Minnesota to prove us all wrong. On the final drive, Cousins is methodical in his execution. The only thing standing between them and a hard-fought win? A chip shot field goal. A chip shot field goal?
Good snap, lead home for the win!
God, it happened again! Jesus Christ, it happened again! Just plaster a trigger warning on field goal tries from this point forward. But you know the real issue. Zimmer, you had 40 seconds and a timeout left in your opponent's red zone. Why the fuck are you letting the clock run down? You could have tried 2, maybe 3 shots at a TD instead of vintage Minnesota. Yeah, I bet it would have been awful nice to not miss that extra point earlier, now wouldn't it? God, this team fucking sucks.
Joseph, come on! It is good! No, he missed it! Good. Are you kidding me? He missed it right.
He missed it right.
Oh my heavens.
Oh my.
He missed it right.
Seattle, Seattle, Seattle. Will you ever find ways not to be hot garbage in games that are winnable? Minnesota had been coming off of 2 devastating losses, yet it felt as if they were invincible most of the time. The offense swarmed all over whatever you call a defense, just like the Titans did in the second half. Kirk Cousins lived up to previous expectations. You know how hard that is to accomplish these days? They didn't even have Dalvin Cook. Didn't matter, Justin Jefferson got gritty all over your corpse. As for that offense of yours, they must have sold it to you at half price. If they didn't, you got ripped off. It's the only way I can explain them checking out again in the second half. This Seahawks team has severe flaws that have been laid bare for all to see these past few weeks. The Vikings simply took advantage of their weakened state. The hungry lion always goes after the injured or elderly for its meal. And Pete Carroll is looking real out of touch as of late. I wonder if they ever get it together. They tend to usually beat Minnesota in these kinds of games, but not this year. Do you want to see what true pain is like? Are you sure? Then look at the Minnesota Vikings. If creativity and torturing oneself was profitable, they'd be richer than Elon Musk. Send this team to space, for their eternal hex will cause everything to malfunction and kill them from oxygen deprivation. A match against Cleveland in front of the home faithful epitomizes it. The defense is doing its job, for God's sake. Baker Mayfield has been horrid. One of the worst performances we've seen from him in years. Perfect for the Vikings to raid their hope, right? You're a damn fool if you don't know the result of this fortune. Seeing the treasure chest as Minnesota devolve into a drooling invalid, spasming on the floor instead of grabbing what's his. The defense may stop the Browns in their tracks at the goal line again, but oops, defensive holding. Touchdown and 2-point conversion to Cleveland. The limp dick offense will do the rest. Kirk Cousins is Michigan J. Frog. He only performs when nobody's looking. When they show up to the theater, croak. You want cruelty? Minnesota is a fumble, a missed field goal, and a defensive holding call away from possibly being undefeated. It is the horn's cry of the Viking. One of perpetual failure. They'll probably be regretting these losses in December. Detroit ever find peace in this mortal coil? Who am I kidding? We all know the answer to that. If only the Lions had an offense, they may have a win on this season. It's been a year of pain, and this game seems to be adding to it. The defense has shown up. They're slowing down a Vikings unit on the road against all odds. Minnesota is playing the shittiest football I've seen from them all year. Cousins has been sluggish. They're without Dalvin Cook again. The offense is doing nothing against a defense devoid of anything resembling talent. Hard work and dedication is a hell of a drug. So does Minnesota doing Viking things like always. Missed field goals? Total Viking move. Clutch performances? How about a fumble on the 20-yard line? Oh my plump Jesus. The Lions are going to tie. They scored a touchdown to make Minnesota shit their pants. The ballsy motherfuckers, they're going for 2!
Goff for the lead. The Lions have it!
Detroit did it. They're going to single-handedly fire Mike Zimmer into a lake. Anger about as the Lions collapse on the final drive because they can't play defense, and Adam Thielen finally did a thing to get them into field goal range.
Joseph to give the Vikings the lead back. It's up there, it's out there, and this time it's through! This time expires!
How in the fuck do you lose on a game-winning field goal to the Vikings? It's like losing in a marathon to a quadriplegic. Why are you Lions? Why must you waste everything handed to you on a silver platter? You made Dan Campbell cry. This is the most heart-wrenching thing I've seen all season. An 0-5 team finding incredible ways to lose every week. God really does hate the Lions. You want to know something? I thought the Carolina Panthers were going to make strides this season. Maybe not playoff contender, but I like some of the signs they were showing in terms of their team structure. These past few weeks, I have one question. How fucking useless are they without Christian McCaffrey? This offense has become straight up dog shit. Sam Darnold can't make a pass. His receivers can't make a catch. The offensive line blocks as well as McAfee antivirus. It just lets everything through. If the Panthers had any sort of offense, this game isn't even close. Minnesota isn't exactly good. They find unbelievable ways to lose football games. And with how they're allowing Carolina to stay in this match, it's not exactly a surprise why they're under 500 to start the year. But this is supposed to be a legitimate contender, am I right? Even with both teams being utterly useless and not worthy of the postseason, Carolina is managing to somehow not shit their pants on offense anymore. Most stunning, despite everything they've done to kill themselves, the Panthers are somehow still alive. Behold the game-tying touchdown and 2-point conversion. Vikings fans quietly cheer this fortune as it might mean the handicap of Mike Zimmer may finally be gone. Unfortunately for them, Brian Burns is somehow too fast to tackle anyone, and they're in field goal range. They can put the dagger in the Panthers' throat. Remember last week against Detroit?
This is for the win. From the right hash, Joseph from 47. It is wide to the right.
That was an aberration. If Minnesota is going to beat Carolina, they'll have to do it without special teams. Conveniently, they were delivered a quick win off Amazon Prime. Good times were had by none. Minnesota gets to pretend they don't suck, and Carolina just sucks. Mike Zimmer becomes Mike Myers and will not die. Can we just give both teams a loss for this game? Dallas Cowboy arrogance is running rampant across the land. Much to the horror of those around the world, the blue star with white trim attempts to assert its dominance. But perhaps we will get a break from it this week. They're resting Dak Prescott due to a lingering calf injury. And instead we get Cooper Rush in his first career start. You think this would be a surefire win for their opponent, but then you look who it is. The Vikings. They are ripe for blowing this sort of game. It's in their history. It's in their blood. And no matter what they do, they cannot avoid their recessive genes. Dallas's defense will carry the slack today. Minnesota could do absolutely nothing against them. I know the Cowboy defense isn't as porous as previous iterations, but to go 1 for 13 on third down conversions? What the fuck is wrong with you? Why is Mike Zimmer still here? So we can hold back all of the talent on this roster? Fuck, Dallas is playing Cooper Rush and he looks decent. Kellen Moore is unlocking his talents. You see that, Vikings? That's called proper play calling. Mike McCarthy doesn't give a shit and is just letting his players do the work. You can learn something from that, Zimmer. Would make a hell of a lot more sense than getting the ball well into Dallas territory thanks to penalties and doing fuck all with it. Oh, you made a field goal without pissing yourselves. Let's plan the parade. And by that I mean allowing Cooper Rush to march down the field on your so-called elite defense. How the hell do you screw up so badly to get defensive delay of game on a 3rd and 16? The horns now cry in the deep. Skloll.
First and goal. To the end zone, and it is held for the touchdown.
I knew they were gonna shit the bed. If you know anything about this franchise, this is what they do. Never argue with me otherwise. Dallas played hard and got rewarded for it. And sometimes that's all it takes. It's 11 o'clock. Do you know why Mike Zimmer hasn't been fired yet? The Vikings. They have the talent to make serious noise in this league, yet are consistently held back by those calling the shots on the sidelines. Think of Mike Zimmer as a restrictor plate at a superspeedway. The horsepower can take this team to great places, but Minnesota needs to be nerfed with conservative play calling that harkens us back to the 80s. You have a team with Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and a dude in plexiglass. How the hell does that consistently fail to generate any sort of momentum whatsoever? The Viking defense is dominating in the first half. Lamar Jackson is being contained, and Baltimore is shut down as a result. With how tight the AFC North has become, a Ravens loss would make things very, very interesting. He did it again. The zen of the toilet. Lamar cleanses the toxins of bad football from his body and transcends the spiritual plane. Down 2 scores, he guides the Ravens back into the light with both timely play and excellent throws. He even taught the defense how to do it. The Viking offense is flushed against their watery assault. 21 unanswered points to take the lead. The mystery box continues to maintain tradition as we have no idea what to expect from Baltimore in a given week. This includes the next drive as Minnesota is methodical by finally showcasing their talent. They glide down to the end zone and tie the game. Okay, good. Now's their chance to win something besides bragging rights. Yet we get to overtime. The Viking defense makes another outstanding play because Devontae Freeman can't pass block. A chance to potentially salvage their season is in their grasp. But then Mike Zimmer happens. They get chicken shit and play for the tie. That doesn't work when an aggressive coach like John Harbaugh is against you. The fun for Minnesota continues as they let another easy win fall into the ether. All 5 of their losses this year have been due to their own failure and stubbornness as an organization. Just like last season, this one is looking like another waste of talent. The Vikings.
And you blow it!
This kind of shit is why the Minnesota Vikings infuriate me. They should be so much better than what the record suggests. The Chargers are a strong football team. They have one of the brightest quarterbacks and coaching minds in the game. They're developing an identity that they've sorely lacked for years. Yet for all of that hype and hullabaloo, Minnesota went right into SoFi and took care of business. Things were neck and neck for a bit, but the Vikings somehow found the clutch mode they lost in the attic all those years ago. Kirk Cousins was strong, the offensive weapons were reliable, even the defense made crucial stops when they needed to. Great, they're up by 10, what's to stop them from choking away the game like they usually do, you say? Here's why. The defense forced LA's offense to outchoke them. I know, it's stunning considering it's Minnesota. After that, just like the Chargers against Philly last week, methodical offense that effectively killed off the clock. The best defense is making sure your opponent never gets the ball. And the Vikings did it. With how chaotic the NFC has been for the wildcard slots, their season is nowhere near over. I don't feel glad for the Vikings. I somehow feel angrier at them for squandering past opportunities to assert themselves. You won a quality game. Good. Now do it again. Minnesota continues their yearly quest to frustrate every single person who pays attention to them whatsoever. Last week they played a quality game. Probably the best one they played all season. Against their big brother to the east, they'll need a lot more of it. Getting out to an early 2-score lead is a good start, but then again, this is Green Bay. Older brother always knows his sibling's weakness. The Achilles heel here is Aaron Rodgers in the blistering passing attack. Thus, an offensive duel begins. A contest of sibling superiority. Minnesota strikes with fury. The Packers respond by making me hate the Vikings with every fiber of my body. They may have lost the lead, but can they avoid the typical pratfalls? So far, that answer seems to be yes. Kirk Cousins reminds us all why Minnesota gave him that massive contract to begin with. He drives the wagons down the field for another touchdown and 2-point conversion. But you have to remember, these are the Vikings.
Floats one, Valdez-Scantling inside, trying to get to the end zone. He's gonna go!
Nothing ever comes easy. To win, they'll have to do the impossible. Not fuck up. Cousins nearly throws a back-breaking pick, but the gods appear to be in your favor today. The pass was ruled to hit the ground, thank God. Rasul Douglas nearly picked off another bad throw as well, but he whiffed like a brewer at the plate. I don't know how, but the Vikings did it. An efficient drive that not only gets them in field goal range, but gives Aaron Rodgers no time for a response. Do me one favor, please don't fuck up the kick, boys.
He's got it!
Winning consecutive quality games, huh? About time you start playing up to your abilities. With this win, despite the rocky start to their season, the Vikings all but control their own destiny. Let's hope the usual doesn't happen with them. This one is intriguing to me. Both the Vikings and 49ers offer much more upside than their records suggest. They are flush with talent and have lost games in humiliating fashion. And for either team to keep their winning streaks alive, these rising stars must cross. For both, this match is must win. And it's unfortunate that one of them has to lose. With how they're playing in this neck-and-neck contest, this is the kind of battle that's glorified in film. Minnesota and San Francisco take turns throwing haymakers at each other while the audience watches in anticipation. Someone is going to blink first. Someone is going to make careless mistakes. Today, like many other days in their history, it was the Vikings. Kirk Cousins has been excellent this season, but threw a brutal interception to give the Niners prime field position. Down by 8 late in the third, Dalvin Cook fumbled to give San Fran more prime field position. But that was far from the main issue. He was sacrificed to the football gods in this play. It might be the second key player to be out long-term in less than a week. If you don't have bad luck, you have no luck, I suppose. Minnesota will blame ref ball for this, and they do have some arguments there. Mainly in the Adam Thielen no-catch and Josh Norman trying to tenderize Thielen's leg. But were the refs responsible for the entire offense being so disheveled that Kirk Cousins lined up behind a guard? How about their inability to convert at the goal line on 4 tries? Or what about their defense unable to stop an over 7-minute drive in the fourth quarter? I hate to say it, Minnesota, but the better team won here. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. That's the curse of the Vikings. San Francisco enjoys it as they get back into playoff position. Is everybody all that surprised that the Minnesota Vikings are having serious trouble trying to dispatch a team they should be crushing? If you are, you're the damn fool. This is what the Vikings do every year. This is what they've been doing for most of the goddamn season. It doesn't matter if the Detroit Lions have no fucking talent whatsoever. Those bastards will jump off the Renaissance Center for their coach. Do you believe that Minnesota, despite being far superior in terms of ability, would do the same for Mike Zimmer? That dude would consider the playbook for Tecmo Bowl to be too revolutionary. It shows in how the Lions bounce on an unprepared opponent to gain an early lead. When a team capitalizes on countless mistakes to somehow bring about a convincing 14-point advantage at half, all is good. But then we realize the Lions are a glorified XFL team. And Minnesota does have talent on their offense to bamboozle whatever pieces are on what they call a defense. The Vikings should be far better than what they are, you know. It shows in how they quickly turn this back into a game to only be down by 2. I would say tied, but they failed to succeed on the 2-point conversion, but that's just a small inconvenience. Detroit's going to fuck this up. That's been their MO for a bunch of their losses this season. If Minnesota could stop shooting themselves in the taint, maybe they could realize it. But the Lions don't trust their defense. They're trying to go for it on 4th down at their 30. Right idea, but terrible play call, Dan. Play action on long developing routes? What the hell is that? Of course, Minnesota responds quickly and manages to score a touchdown with ease. But did they give them too much time? Regardless of how awful they are, the Lions have players fighting for new contracts. They're going to give everything they've got on the final drive. The Viking defense is weak and ripe for exposure, even from a guy like Jared Goff. A potential miracle is happening. Despite every obstacle they throw in their own way, Detroit controls their own destiny to win the game. Do it, Lions. Do it for all of us.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, and yes! Caught! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! They did it! Amon-Ra St. Brown in the receiving end!
They did it. They did it. Oh my God, it happened. For the first time in almost a year, the Detroit Lions have won a football game. Miracles abound in this time of glory. Rain pours in the Sahara. Cats and dogs are teaching each other advanced trigonometry. Both the communist and the capitalist are holding hands in matrimony, for a great day is upon us all. The Lions have won. Dreams can come true. This is like John Scott in the NHL All-Star Game. They're terrible and shouldn't be anywhere near that situation, but you can't help but root for them. I don't even feel like laughing at the Vikings for how pathetic they are. They do enough of that shit on their own with Zimmer still being there. No. This day was about Detroit and Oxford High School. This and the Michigan Wolverines win were for those kids. May those that died rest in peace. I don't blame you whatsoever if you're a Vikings fan and want to burn everything to the fucking ground after this one. This matchup encompassed every single goddamn thing that's wrong with the Minnesota Vikings this season. It's a checklist. Let's talk about the first half. When Pittsburgh wasn't just caught with their pants down, Minnesota was raw-dogging them behind the stadium. This is some of the worst defense I've seen out of the Steelers in decades. Dalvin Cook was running against a Pop Warner unit with some of the massive holes he had. Even the guy who did Goatsy is envious at how gaping this defense is. If Kirk Cousins could throw accurately and Justin Jefferson could catch, this would be even worse than it already is. I'm not even happy for them. This is the potential that the Vikings have. And I'm furious as an outsider looking in because they've rarely shown this kind of ability throughout the year. Oh, if only that were the extent to how Minnesota would want to channel their ancestors' love of pillaging the English coastline, this wouldn't be a thing. You would believe that a 29-0 lead would be more than enough to kill off any team's ambition, but you don't know what the hell both these teams are about. I keep the Vikings away from horny old men because they will try and blow every damn thing they can. The sheer amounts of bullshit and what the fuckery is a Pittsburgh specialty as well. They shouldn't be anywhere near competitive in this game. Yet Ben suddenly reverts to prime form, the line blocks efficiently, and the defense suddenly clamps down like we're back to the LeBeau years. It's the worst case scenario for both teams. Neither wants to truly win, but they'll pretend that it's close either due to the NFL's rigging or random implosions by both squads. Clutch play after clutch play is somehow being made as Pittsburgh is roaring back with a fury that we haven't seen since last week. And Vikings fans are fearing the inevitable. And the predictable. As the Steelers are driving to tie in the waning seconds, I ask one question. How the fuck is this even a game?
End zone. Incomplete. Vikings win it.
Of course, it isn't the goddamn Pittsburgh Steelers to bring all hope back only to drop it in triple coverage on the final play. I don't give a fuck if the Vikings won. I still want Mike Zimmer burned at the stake for this shit. In no way should this have been close. How was this pure Vikings yet pure Steelers at the same time? We can all agree this year has been insanely fucked for the NFL. Most games like the last one we recap feel like they're on some kind of drug cocktail. It's exhausting to follow this league some weeks. The only benefit is in memes fresh out of the oven. You thought it couldn't get worse. An old friend has reemerged onto the scene. Corona-chan is back from her lengthy vacation and wreaking havoc on every sports league throughout America. The NFL has felt her wrath hard. You may have noticed all the coughing last week. It was for good reason. Over 150 cases in the league over a 5-day span. It's not Pokemon to catch. Coronavirus is running a train throughout multiple organizations. Cleveland and the Rams have over 25 players in COVID protocol. Washington has over 20. Other teams like the Bears, Texans, and Lions are getting wrecked as well. 8 teams are in enhanced COVID protocols. This is the worst case scenario we were fearing last season, and we're seeing it happen in front of our eyes. The NFLPA pleaded with the league for games to be postponed, but of course they waited until the last moment. In a shocker, the Shield cared more about game integrity than cold hard cash. The Saturday Browns and Raiders tilt has been pushed to Monday. Seahawks versus Rams and Reskins versus Eagles have been rescheduled for Tuesday. We have it again in doubleheader form, boys! Tuesday Night Football! Any chance we can get a Wednesday night game? For all the glorious memes? Paying attention to the Chicago Bears is like watching a grandparent die of cancer. It's horrifying and no one should have to go through with it, but it's an inevitability of life. On a cold, dreary Monday night against the Vikings, it was as if I saw an entire city wither into decay. Chicago itself was limping into this matchup. Injuries and COVID took out their entire starting secondary. Adding insult to backups and practice squad fodder, several of the assistants were out as well. So they must suffer through torture. Matt Nagy calling plays on offense. Oh, they're offensive, alright. Children are watching, Matt. Do you want them to suffer through this uninspired dreck? It wasn't like Minnesota did much of anything. Even for Kirk Cousins and his notorious awfulness on Monday Night Football, it was superseded by bearing down to purgatory. Whatever chances Chicago had were either squandered away or hampered by ref ball. Oh, the ref ball. I bet the Bears know a thing or two about that, don't they? It was a miserable game that was even more miserable for anyone who bothered to watch. And for surviving the credit sequence, the Vikings get a gift. A 500 record. The Vikings. Whenever you think there's a chance in hell of them doing the right thing, they'll somehow take your low expectations and treat them like a bird flying into their stadium glass. Dead on impact. Against the Rams at home, they encompassed every single fucking thing wrong with their franchise this season. And perhaps most of them in their history. You already know the name of the game. Repeated acts of self-destruction. No matter what they do, the Vikings will sabotage themselves as a form of suffering. Receivers' hands turning into stone at the goal line. This is obviously Kirk Cousins' fault. The defense gave Matthew Stafford flashbacks of his Detroit days with bad luck aplenty. 3 interceptions off of him, 2 in the red zone, and they can do little with them. Not with how terrible their special teams were as well. This punt return touchdown is probably also somehow Kirk Cousins' fault as well. Minnesota, like every other scenario of theirs this season, was handicapped by awful coaching, bad play calling, and shitty execution. I think Vikings fans would agree with executing certain people for this increasingly lost season. Fighting off the Rams alone would have been tough enough, but Minnesota keeps making it harder and harder for themselves. This game might have been the dagger. Next week is Green Bay. Wonder how the fuck they castrate themselves there. Do or die for the Vikings. It may be too late for them, but for any chance of success, they'll have to win against hated older brother at Lambeau when Aaron Rodgers is wearing the white turtleneck of death. I'd say Kirk Cousins should do something, but Corona-chan broke through the plexiglass. He's out for this contest. Wait a second, this is perfect! Minnesota can now blame every single one of their failures this season on those damn dirty unvaccinated players. They don't have to look from within at anything, it was just bad luck and betrayal that did them in. Minnesota could ignore their failure to contain 4-man rushes, generating the production of a sloth on offense, being burned repeatedly on opposing receiver routes, having some of the worst coaching and play calling in the league, and getting less pressure than an 80-year-old grandma on Aaron Rodgers. The real issue is those unvaccinated players forcing them to be terrible in every facet. Ignore the wasted season. Green Bay can beat them easily, that's fine. They'll send Minnesota a gift basket of severed heads for securing the number 1 seed later. But tonight they will feast and dance until the sun rises. Minnesota Vikings eliminated.
You guys gonna fire Zimmer already? Holy shit!
Both of these coaches are getting fired at the end of this game, so who fucking cares? Andy Dalton versus Kirk Cousins in another pure shit show of fantastic proportions. The epitome of wasted seasons thrown in front of you for observation and eventual death. In the typical Minnesota Vikings style, they don't do a damn thing until it's far too late to change anything. This week is the same situation. They're relatively neck and neck with the Bears, which isn't shocking since neither have anything to play for. But Andy Dalton's Red Rifle fires a blank to Pat Pete, who returns it for a touchdown. That momentum allows the Vikings to win nothing but emptiness in a worse draft position. Well done, Minnesota. You pissed away golden opportunities left and right. This is what you get for thinking the same shit that failed in years past was going to work over and over again. I'm getting too worked up over this. Let's throw both these teams into the pit and call it a day. This has been a season. So many twists and turns that it's hard to conceive with the naked eye. If you were looking at this year seriously, it was absolutely exhausting. But do you know the true bounty to cherish? The memes. It was fucking gold for this economy. Thanks to incredible collapses, fantastic comebacks, Urban Meyer's coaching tenure, and whatever the fuck Antonio Brown did in the Jets game. This Vikings year was just so Vikings that it somehow out-Vikinged the rest of their hilarious fuck-ups. That's all you need to say. As many chances as they had to make something of themselves. As often as we all thought they had the talent to be much better than what they were. All this proved was how badly Mike Zimmer was holding the team back. Do you want me to go over them in excruciating detail? Perhaps in how an overtime fumble against the Bengals cost them what should have been a tough win? Or maybe we can talk about how place kickers come to this team to die in the clutch. Doing nothing at home against Cleveland? Losing to a Dallas team starting Cooper Rush at QB while collapsing on offense? Kirk Cousins lining up under the wrong fucking lineman against San Francisco? Wait, I got the moment. Being the first team to lose to the Detroit Lions by means of shitty coverage. Oh, what a Viking season it truly was. And it's finally forced the team to admit they need an executive overhaul. Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman were finally thrown out. And hopefully their shortcomings are gone with them. In their stead, a GM from the Cleveland School of Analytics and Sean McVay's next apprentice in Kevin O'Connell. This may be the end of the Herschel Walker 2.0 era and Kirk Cousins too if the trade market is enticing enough. Just like every other sports team in Minnesota, there is only relentless underachieving and failed ambitions. I wonder if they can ever break out of it.